Galloway's presents Tech Talk at 3 with Brian Hartgen from Hartgen Consultancy. Controlling your computer using voice recognition. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Tech Talk at 3. It's Andrew Coleman here from Galloway's. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Brian Hartgen, who is joining us from Hartgen Consultancy. And for the past 5 years, Hartgen Consultancy have created a range of products and training courses that are exclusively to support the JAWS screen reader and Zoomtext screen magnification software. In particular, Brian is going to be talking to us today about two different products. One is called JSay and one is called JDictate. And this is around being able to control your computer and input using voice dictation and voice recognition. So we're really pleased to be joined by Brian today. Thanks very much, Brian, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I hope that introduction did it justice, but I'm sure that you'll be able to do it a lot more justice over the next hour. We're really looking forward to your presentation and welcome to Galloway's.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. Would you like me to begin?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Well, as Andrew said, I'm Brian Hartgen from Hartgen Consultancy, and I'm really looking forward to delivering the presentation to you today. I hope that you do enjoy it. What I'm going to do is to present for you for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll break to see if there are any questions. I know that Andrew likes to have them at the end, but we'll see if Andrew has any observations to make. Then we'll move on, and I'm quite happy to sit here for a little while and answer any questions that you might have, because this is it's quite a huge area, so there are bound to be some questions. We are a small company based in South Wales in the UK. My wife and I own the company Hartgen Consultancy, and we've been in existence now for close to 6 years. Now, don't worry if you can't spell the word Hartgen. If you want to Google us, I will give you all the contact details a bit later on, particularly our website. Now, put simply, as Andrew indicated, we develop computer software products and services to support the JAWS for Windows screen reader or Zoomtext Fusion screen reader magnifier. Now, let me make that clear from the outset. We don't support any other screen reading or magnification package. Now, while we are a small company, we're very glad to say that we have many thousands of people using our products and services. And in addition to producing products, we also train people in the use of JAWS itself, either remotely or when lockdown is fully out of the way, on site at the homes of individuals, or within education and employment face-to-face. If you look at our website later on, you'll also see that we have a range of training courses which teach people how to use JAWS with particular applications. I'm thinking of programs such as Microsoft Word, Microsoft Edge, Outlook, audio applications, and a lot more besides. We're also every week asked to carry out JAWS script writing, and that basically means that we make applications accessible if we possibly can, either for individuals, but usually, to be honest, it is for organizations and companies worldwide. You will also find some of my scripting work in JAWS itself, if you happen to have it. But Andrew asked me to specifically come along to you today to talk about voice recognition technology. In other words, being able to talk to the computer using the human voice, using a natural voice in a similar way to the manner in which I'm talking to you now, and being able to operate it successfully as a blind person or someone who has limited vision. Now, to give you some background to this, I've been working within the access technology arena now for about 25 years. I'm totally blind myself. I started out working in a rehabilitation center for the visually impaired. And what struck me was that there were people who either couldn't type on the keyboard particularly well, or who had disabilities above and beyond visual impairment, which prevented them from using the keyboard to any degree. And this whole issue of voice recognition fascinated me. And in 2001, I heard an article on a cassette magazine. It was called Sound Computing, and it demonstrated a product which was called Jawbone. And this linked together JAWS for Windows and Dragon Naturally Speaking, which is the voice input tool. In other words, that's the part which accepts what you say. And it either transcribes your spoken output as text, or it carries out a computer command. Now, don't worry if that went by a bit quickly. I'm going to explain it in greater depth in a short while. Now, this seemed to me to be very good, but it did have some limitations. So in 2003, as a JAWS programmer, I was asked by a company who are now no longer in existence, T&T Consultancy, if I could develop something not identical to Jawbone, but quite similar. And I've been involved with this whole area of voice recognition technology since then. And as I say, it is by no means everything that we do. It's quite a small number of people who use it in the grand scheme of things. We couldn't live on just that, but nevertheless, we are still the only major player in this field. I've seen products which have attempted to compete with what we do, and where are they now? They've all gone, or they're very out of date. So where does that actually leave us? What do we have? Well, first of all, let's dispense with what is called Windows speech recognition. There is an element of voice recognition technology built directly into Windows and Office applications these days as well. In fact, this started to occur years ago with the operating system Windows Vista. And I did develop a product called JVist, which attempted to provide some interaction between JAWS for Windows and that system. However, the problem is that the speech recognition accuracy is not by any means as good as the product which I've always favored, and that is, as I said, Dragon Naturally Speaking. So the end result of that is that people will tell us, and that they did do so, that the recognition is not particularly good. And that resulted in people thinking that our product wasn't particularly good. The people couldn't differentiate between what we were doing and what the voice input tool was doing. And so we were getting the blame for some of these quite obvious deficits. So the very best thing to do is to use the best that we can offer and the best that we can work with, and that is Dragon Naturally Speaking. And currently we are up to version 15.3 of that particular product. So we have two products which hopefully serve both ends of the market in terms of access to Dragon. One product for which we are very well known is called JSay. That is J for Juliet hyphen SAY. And this allows a blind person to completely control the computer using the human voice from the time you switch the machine on to the time that you actually close it down. Now, you may already be using screen reading technology. I suspect that most of you are. And you may be able to navigate around the computer fairly well and get the most of everything done that you need to get done, including the use of the internet. But what about people who, for whatever reason, can't do that? Maybe they have no arms or hands, and that is a case with quite a number of our customers. Perhaps they have a learning disability, which stops them from remembering the different keystrokes which are needed. What about people who just cannot type particularly well? Those people are our focus for JC. It's now in its 17th year of development, and it's a popular product in the voice recognition space. Essentially, it combines the power of everything that is in JAWS for Windows or Zoomtext Fusion, which reads the screen out loud, together with the power of the product created by Nuance, which is Dragon Naturally Speaking. And that hears what you say and it does something with it. So with that combination, it gives a person the complete ability to control the computer using the human voice alone. So as a very basic example, and I will get into some live demonstrations in a moment. I'm not just going to sit here and talk to you. You're actually going to hear this in action. You may know that in JAWS, if you wanted to hear the current line, you would press the insert key together with the up arrow key. Now with JSay, what you would do is say the command speak line. The same is true of speak document. The keystroke for that is insert down arrow in JAWS. There's nothing particularly memorable about that keystroke. It's not an easy one necessarily to remember. There's no mnemonic to it. There's nothing easy to remember. But with JSay, it is easy to remember because essentially what you're going to do is say what you want to happen. So in that case, you would say speak document. Now, obviously, you can do lots of other things. You can dictate text into it, and we're going to do some of that. And JSay through JAWS will echo back what you've said. And that is particularly important for blind people. As you are learning how to use this software, it's learning from you too about how you pronounce different words and phrases. We all have terminology that is special to us, whether it be family members' names or street names, those kinds of things. And if it makes a mistake, you're not going to be able to see it because you may have limited vision. So you need to hear back immediately what it says or what is displayed there. And if it's not correct, you need to do something about it. There are also lots and lots of other utilities in the product which have been designed over the years for blind people who need to use voice recognition technology to control the computer. I was contacted this morning by a lady, one of our loyal customers in the United States, and she was asking for some voice commands to control the Zoom application that we are using now. So some of those will definitely be in the next update. I was putting some of those in this morning. We also have other utilities. So for example, you can launch specific websites by voice commands. You can save files in specific folders, saves a lot of navigation around. That's even troublesome sometimes if you're using the keyboard, if you are trying to save a document several subfolders deep. It has a contacts facility in there. There are easy ways to select text and so on. So let's talk about the learning and support of this kind of product. And I do emphasize this fact at this point because in let's just deal with that. I emphasize this point in the presentation because I think what I'm about to say relates to perhaps why not many companies develop similar products, because really what they are interested in is what I call box shifting. They just get the products out the door and they're not necessarily interested in providing the support. This product does take an enormous amount of support. People who use it invariably are physically disabled as well as being visually impaired. So by definition, their needs are far greater. You can imagine that, can't you? They need help setting it up initially, a lot of training so that they can get to the point that they can use it comfortably. And as a trainer, if you are a trainer, you need a good deal of patience and understanding, as does the person using it. You'll hear in a moment that when I speak a command, it takes a second or two for Dragon to investigate in its library to associate a suitable command with what you've actually said, and then do something with it. So it's not as fast as using the keyboard. I don't want to devalue the usefulness of this product, but I want always to be honest with you. And the customer needs to have a very clear expectation that this is not going to happen overnight for them. It will take weeks and months of learning and practice in order for this to really work effectively. Now, having said that, we do have a lot of customers who have written dramas for television using JSay. Maybe one or two of you are familiar with the soap Emmerdale. One of the script writers on that Emmerdale project is a JSay user. They have published books using it. They use it for day-to-day activities, such as working with documents, email, and the internet, all those kinds of things. You can do pretty much anything with your voice if you have the knowledge to do it. Okay, so that's JSay, but let me tell you before I demonstrate that, and I am going to demonstrate it, about the other product that we have, and this is JDictate. Now, this is a much more low-cost product and is designed for people who are quite content to navigate around Windows and edit text with the keyboard, but who want a way of being able to dictate text into the computer. So people who create reports, for example, lawyers, solicitors, social workers, physiotherapists, anyone who feels it would be faster to use the voice to dictate notes and so on. Now, that uses JAWS or Fusion with a far less expensive version of Dragon. So let's just talk about the pricing for the moment. So for JSay and everything that you need associated with it, if you have JAWS, the cost of that and an appropriate headset to go with it is around about the £695 mark. Now, the JDictate product is around about £200. So there is a marked difference in price, but there's also a very marked difference in terms of the functionality that these two products offer. So remember, JSay is complete hands-free control of the computer. JDictate is just about dictating text, but the user is quite content to do all the text editing and navigating around using the keyboard or the mouse. So I think what I should do is get into some demonstrations maybe, and we'll see where we go from there. So if you just bear with me a moment, I've got to say that the setup that I've got here is incredibly complicated, because what I have to do is to get the audio from JAWS to you, but I also have to get the JAWS speech out of the way of Dragon. We don't want Dragon to hear the JAWS speech. So if you just bear with me just a second or so, and I should be able to do this. Now, I have got Dragon loaded, and this would be the condition that the computer would be in if a person had switched it on for the first time. Okay, so when the Windows operating system has loaded, then they would be perhaps on the desktop, and this is in fact where we are. Okay, so what I will do is tell you that the microphone can be in any one of two conditions. It can be awake or asleep. So at the moment, it's asleep, but it is listening for certain key phrases. One of those is check microphone. And this will tell us whether the microphone is awake or asleep. And indeed, it is asleep. So let me bring the JAWS into the mix here, and then okay. I think we are about ready to do it. All right. Check microphone. Okay, now either the JAWS isn't coming through. Check microphone.
JC, microphone sleeping.
Check microphone. Okay, what I'm actually going to do is restart Dragon. So after that great introduction, it may need a restart because I had it running all the time. I take it that we can actually hear the JAWS okay.
Yeah, we can hear that okay, Brian. That's fine.
Okay, so let's restart it back off again and see whether we can get this working.
That's no problem.
Taskbar.
Check microphone.
Microphone sleeping.
There we go. Okay, so that's fine. I'd had it running for quite a bit and had obviously given up, perhaps because I joined Zoom. All right, so I can turn the JAWS up a little bit now. So in order to put the microphone on, we can do that. We can have we've got a command in order to do that. I'm going to use it now. Microphone on. Microphone off.
Dialogue. Taskbar. The computer is ready for you.
Okay, so that's fine. So you heard two distinctly different sounds there. One is a musical chord sound, and the other actually is a closing door sound. So they're completely different sounds. So you should be able to easily identify whether the microphone is on or off. We'll just do that again. Microphone on. Microphone off. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to open up an application. I'm going to use Microsoft Word, and I'm going to dictate a couple of paragraphs. And you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, I'm not going to just gabble and babble at it. Okay, my dictation is going to be quite structured. So I'm going to give it a few words at a time, and we'll listen back to what it's saying. And assuming we're happy and we're satisfied, we'll move on to the next block of text. I'll be dictating punctuation. This is not a secretary. If you were dictating to a secretary, then he or she would know in order to put in the punctuation. Okay, that's why they're a secretary. But this computer does not know. It's not a mind reader. So you need to tell it what you want to do. So I'll be putting in some punctuation, but you'll notice that this is quite natural. So let's see how we get on. Let's hope it behaves itself. Microphone on. Start word.
Starting word. Please wait. Opening. Document 1 word. Edit.
Today is Thursday, full stop.
Today is Thursday, full stop.
This morning, comma.
This morning, comma.
I went for a walk in the park, full stop.
I went for a walk in the park, full stop.
The sun was shining, comma.
The sun was shining, comma.
The birds were singing.
The birds were singing.
And I had a spring in my step, exclamation mark.
And I had a spring in my step, exclamation mark.
New paragraph.
New paragraph.
When I reached home, comma.
When I reached home, comma.
I wrote to my friend Mary, full stop.
I wrote to my friend Mary, full stop.
I wanted to tell her.
I wanted to tell her.
About all the exciting places.
About all the exciting places.
I had recently visited, exclamation mark.
I had recently visited, exclamation mark.
Microphone off. Okay, now you'll notice that I actually did not enunciate a particular phrase. I actually mangled the phrase I wanted to tell her, but Dragon was still able to get that, and JC did echo it back. So we know that the recognition is very accurate because it was speaking as we were going along. But what if we want to do some screen reading? How does that work? The good thing about JSay is that the commands, at least the navigation commands, are consistent, irrespective of the application that you're using. So some of the commands that I'm going to use now actually are applicable whether you're reading text in a document like this, whether you are browsing the web and working with email and so on. Yes, of course, there are lots of other commands to control those different applications, but by and large, if you know how to navigate in Microsoft Word, then you can do quite a lot in those other applications too. So let me go through and show you a couple of ways in which we might navigate this document, this masterpiece that we have dictated. Microphone on. Go to top.
Top of file.
Speak line.
Today is Thursday. This morning I went for a walk in the park. The sun was shining. The birds were
Next line.
singing and I had a spring in my step.
Next line.
Blank.
Next line.
When I reached home, I wrote to my friend Mary. I wanted to tell her about all the exciting places
Next word.
I
Next word.
reached.
Spell word.
R-E-A-C-H-E-D space.
Go to top.
Top of file.
Speak document.
Today is Thursday. This morning I
Be
went for a walk in
quiet.
the park. The sun blank.
Microphone off. So again, natural language commands that we're using, when I said be quiet, then it instantly silenced the speech. It's a little bit like pressing the control key. Of course, one of the other things that we can do is to change individual words. So if I remember correctly in this document, I said, when I reached home, I wrote to my friend Mary. Or what if we want to change that to Elizabeth instead? Let's give that a shot. Microphone on. Select Mary.
Selected. Mary.
Elizabeth.
Selected. Space. Elizabeth.
Speak sentence.
When I reached home, I wrote to my friend Elizabeth.
Microphone off. So all I needed to do was to say select, followed by a word or a phrase that is in the document. And of course, as you may know, through your own control of Windows with the keyboard, once you select text, it is vulnerable. Okay, so whatever you type over the top of that is going to erase the selection. So all I did was select the text and then I said Elizabeth. And then, of course, I wanted to make sure, because I can't see it, that the text was in fact as I intended it to be. So I said speak sentence, and it said when I reached home, I wrote to my friend Elizabeth. Okay, so that's how that works. What if you can't remember, though, what is in the document? I won't demonstrate this now, but it's actually quite easy. We have a selection which kind of takes us back to the old days of WordPerfect for DOS, if anyone remembers that far back. So the idea is that you position the cursor at the start of where you want to begin the selection. You then mark that point with the command begin selection. You then move the cursor in a very similar way to what I was doing earlier to the end point or the potential end point, and you say end selection, and the text between the two marked points is selected. And then once it is selected, you can do whatever you want with it. You can delete it, you can speak over the top of it to erase it, you can embolden it, you can copy it, all the usual things that you would want to be able to do with it. Okay, so let me just mute the JAWS speech for a moment, because I know that I've been talking for quite a while, and we've been running for about half an hour now. What I was going to do was to perhaps demonstrate in a short while using JSay on the internet, because I thought that might be quite good for you to listen to, so you can see how it navigates websites. But I just wondered whether anybody, including Andrew, had any questions or observations to make before I do that.
Yeah, very interesting that, Brian. I think the internet browsing will be really interesting, actually. But yeah, we can take it to the floor. Louise can unmute everyone, and if you want to ask a question, we can take a question for Brian if anyone has got a question.
It's just a natural break in the proceedings before we get into another demo.
Absolutely fascinating stuff, though, Brian, and a really good demonstration of how it works. Very, very, very concise, and very accurate as well, which is great stuff. So, has anybody got a question so far?
Well, it's David Hughes.
Hi, David.
Yes, Brian, does it always recognise what should be capital letters?
That is a great question. It really is. So when you dictate, it will capitalize the first letter of each new sentence or paragraph. So you don't need to worry about that. It has a very large dictionary on board, so it will capitalize names that it knows about, and also street names, that kind of thing. But it's all right, there's a lot of talking going on, so I'm finding it difficult to answer the question. If people could just remain quiet, please. Sorry to intervene, Andrew.
Okay, no, it's all right.
I can't answer the question. People are talking at all. Okay, so it is capitalizing those words, but you can introduce your own capital letters, either by training an individual word or indeed by saying the word cap before the word if you want an initial capital. The other thing that you can do is say all caps on, and then anything that you want to be capitalized thereafter will be in full capitals. Anything that you dictate from that point until you say all caps off.
Excellent. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Great question. Great question. Has anybody else got another question?
Yes, may I ask a question, please?
Go for it, Julie.
It's Julie Bennett here. On the price of the package, is there a service charge on top of that, or an update charge for the updating the license or anything?
We're getting some good questions. So the updates usually come along, or the upgrades, I should say, come along about once every year, in the same way that any other product does, such as Jaws. We do have a software maintenance agreement, so you can actually get it a little bit cheaper. So you can pay a discounted rate for, say, 2 years. But throughout the course of the year, we do updates as well. These are free updates. So as well as getting the individual product, you do actually get about 4 or 5 updates, free updates within the course of a year as well.
Yeah. How many, if you have a tablet and you had a PC, how many pieces of equipment is that spaced over, or is it just on the one piece of equipment?
Absolutely not. Most of us these days, Julie, have more than one device. So,
That was the word I was looking for, sorry.
That's right. So in actual fact, you can install it on quite a number of them. 3 is usually what people do, but again, there's some flexibility there.
That's excellent.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think one more question before Brian does his next bit. Is anyone have a question?
Yes, please.
Oh, hi, Angus.
Hello. So I'm Angus Huntley. I'm an interloper from Newcastle. I work for Newcastle Vision Support. We have a service user who I think this might be perfect for. She, through having had a stroke and also very recently losing what remained of her sight, is a bit compromised when it comes to accessing her computer. She's a competent Windows user and used to use Zoomtext to navigate, so mostly visual, and then the speech for reading long documents, and she could type one-handed because she had some residual vision, but doesn't anymore. So on the surface, at least, this looks ideal. She's going to be doing pretty high-level stuff because she's a trustee of a number of organisations, and does a lot of complicated documents. I'm presuming this will work, and also, can you navigate spreadsheets with it?
So the answer to all your questions, Angus, is yes and yes. So
Right. Okay.
with the
What I'll do then, Brian, rather than me be middleman, I'll grab the details. I'll Google your website, grab the details, and send it on to her, and she can contact you. But
please feel free. Yes.
To me, it sounds like it's going to be a bit of a learning curve, because she is going to have to learn JAWS as well. But then, if you're having not used JAWS previously, if she's starting out from zero and you're learning to use this as a combined package altogether, I think it should work.
Okay, let me just make a couple of observations then based on what you've said, and thank you very much for that. So you were talking first of all about complex formatting, and yes, indeed, it can work with that. There is a voice command for every single JAWS command. Okay,
right.
Plus a lot of our own. So we're talking quite a lot of commands. Of course, you don't need to use all those commands. You can just use the ones that suit. But it is possible, for example, to very easily create bulleted lists, to embold and underline text, even things like creating tables or using track changes or revisions in Word. Those sorts of things are definitely possible. Yes, you can navigate spreadsheets. There are commands for doing that. And in terms of yes, I think if you put her in touch with us, that will be fine. It will take quite a bit of learning, obviously. When I teach people how to use this software, usually I forget about what Dragon is doing, what JAWS is doing, and what JC is doing, because to the user, it isn't really that important. So we just focus on what JC is doing. So she really doesn't need to know much about the way that the JAWS keystrokes work. As you say, she's starting from scratch, from first base. So it really ought to be easier for her to learn it.
Okie dokie, that's absolutely perfect. I'll point her in your direction, and Brian, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So we'll mute everyone again, and Brian, we'll let you do your second presentation.
Okay, I guess I will have to unmute myself, will I?
Yes. Yeah. Is that okay? Okay.
Okay. Let's.
Louise will just do that now for us.
Okay, that should be it. We should be all good to go.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Let me just get back to Microsoft Word for a moment here, where we were. Okay. So just to demonstrate a couple of things then. And let's go back to here so that you can hear the JAWS. Okay. So we were in a Microsoft Word document a moment ago. We had dictated something, but we need to close that program down now. Now, the command to close any running program is close program, so that's straightforward, but we haven't saved this wonderful document yet. And we're not going to save it, okay? So what's going to happen, of course, you will probably know this, that when you press Alt F4 on the keyboard, if you haven't saved the document, it's going to prompt you. There are 3 buttons on the screen, in actual fact, in modern Office versions. There's a cancel button, there's a save button, and there's a don't save button. So what we need to do is to tell the system what we actually want to do is click the don't save button. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. Microphone on. Close program.
File name edit. Today is Thursday.
Click don't save.
Video content, Zoom meeting locked, meeting information.
Be quiet.
Button.
Go to desktop.
Folder view, list view, Dragon 38 of 55.
Microphone off. Okay, so here we are on the Windows desktop now, because when I exited the application, because of what we're doing at the moment, I obviously went back to the Zoom window. And a lot of users wouldn't do this, particularly if they're just starting out. They would only have one application perhaps open at a time. If they want to open multiple applications, and a lot of people do this, I have a lot of people using this in open plan offices, for example, or we did prior to all these restrictions, but people do use it in places of work. And so they have several applications open at once. They might have Outlook or Word and so on. There is a command, and it's select a program, and it brings all the programs into a vertical list. And then they can select the one that they want. They can also, if they know what's open, they can say switch to, followed by the name of the program, such as switch to Word, switch to Outlook, and so on. Now, in terms of the web, there is, as I was saying to Angus earlier on, there is a JAWS command for each, a voice command for each and every JAWS command. So you might be familiar with quick navigation keys, such as to move to the next heading, the next table, and so on and so forth, the next edit field. We have voice commands for those, but we actually go one better, because all you can do with the quick navigation keys is you can go to the next and the previous. But with JC, you can go to the first and the last of those as well. A lot of people, particularly in the United States, we were asked to do this by the Veterans Association over there, and they are one of our major customers. They were training people, and they thought that it would be good to have first, last, next, and previous. So that's one of the things that we did. I will be using some of those terms as well to move around the website. Also, utilities like to be able to bring up a list of links in a document, list of headings on a web page, and so on. So just to explain some of the terminology that I will be using there. Now, the other thing that you can do is to set up voice commands to load websites in which you're interested. And I did do a little bit of homework here, because I have set up a shortcut here to the Galloway's Society for the Blind website. Okay, so we are going to put you under the microscope, under the spotlight.
I wish our web designer was here now, Brian.
And we are going to see how this system behaves with this particular website. Okay, so let's try it. Microphone on. Start Galloway's.
Start Galloway's. Site lost charity Galloway Society for the Blind Preston Microsoft Edge page. Site lost charity Galloway Society for the Blind Preston page has 2 frames, 6 regions, 15 headings, and 56 links. Donate now. New talking together on Zoom. Find out more.
Microphone off.
New talking.
Okay, so we are on the web page, and all I needed to do there was to say start Galloway's.
Donate now. New talking
and
together.
it has now launched in my browser, which is Microsoft Edge, the new Microsoft Edge. Okay, I don't know if there's some refreshing on this website going on, but we
now new talking to get
yes.
the microphone sleeping.
Okay, the microphone is asleep, but I think the web page may be refreshing a little bit. So let's, yes, I think it is actually. Let's see if we can get away from this, shall we? Microphone on. Select a link.
Links list dialog. Links list view. Galloway's brand logo.jpg 1 of 56.
Move down.
Facebook black circle 2 of 56.
Move down.
Twitter black circle 3 of 56.
Move down 3.
Home 6 of 56.
Move down.
About a 7 of 56.
What's on?
What's on this week? 16 of 56. What's on?
Confirm that.
Weekly Diary Galloway's Microsoft Edge. Weekly Diary Galloway's. Weekly Diary Galloway's. Top of page visited link.
Next heading.
What's on diary heading level 2.
Speak document.
Heading level 2, what's on diary? Welcome to our weekly diary of events. We have an extensive program of events and groups catering for a wide range of interests. People laughing and smiling at a social graphic. From social groups and various classes to outdoor activities, we aim to provide something for everyone. If you would like.
Next heading.
Support through site loss. Heading level 2.
Next heading.
Copyright 2018 Galloway Society for the Blind, a charity registered in England and Wales 5260.
Go back. Speak line.
Use of cookies button.
Next heading.
Wrapping the top. Hello. Heading level 2.
Microphone off. Okay, so a number of things there. First of all, I brought up the list of links, okay, which I was easily able to do with the select a link command. And I moved down the list of links with move down. You can actually say move down 1 through to 20. And a lot of our users who use this technology, they love lists. Just to digress a little bit, one of the things, again, that a lot of US rehab workers asked for was the ability for people to be able to navigate Outlook attachments much easier than Microsoft Office provides, because it isn't a particularly easy or intuitive way in Office as a whole. So we have a vertical list of attachments, because once people know how to navigate lists like that, then there's a lot that they can do. They can browse File Explorer easy enough to review the documents, their inbox, the list of links, and so on and so forth. So we rely a lot on vertical lists. So I was saying move down, but because I had been here before and I had looked at what this website was like, I knew there was a link called something like what's on this week, I think it's actually called. And so I was able to say the first 1 or 2 words to jump down the list to the place that I was interested in. And it found it, didn't it, straight away? And then I was able to say confirm that. And that is like pressing the enter key. It actually does a bit more than press enter, but that's essentially equates to it. And then we were on the new page, and I was able to use commands such as next heading and so on. Now, in terms of completing form fields, because obviously the web is a lot about that, you can navigate to the different fields. You can say things like next field. If you don't know what type of field you're looking for, you can say next edit and so on. And when you've reached where you want to be, you can say forms mode on, and that will turn on the special JAWS forms mode, whereupon you can dictate what it is that you want. And then you can navigate through those fields if that's what you want to do. So that is a demonstration of JSay on the internet, and hopefully that has given you a little bit of a sense as to how this particular product works. Of course, I'm willing to, as I said, answer any questions that you've got, or if there's anything in particular that you'd like me to demonstrate. I'm not afraid to do it. Okay, this isn't scripted or anything like that. This is a live situation, so perfectly happy to do that. But I hope you've enjoyed what I have demonstrated so far. Yeah. And as I say, willing to answer any questions. And again, thank you to Andrew for allowing me to come along today. I should just give you the website address, perhaps, before we go to any questions. And that is www.Hartgen, that's Hartgen, consultancy.com. Or if you just Google Hartgen Consultancy as before, believe me, you will find us.
I must say, Brian, absolutely fantastic demonstration. Really, really impressed with the way you can navigate the web, and if you know the name of a link or information there, you can navigate to it. That's very clever. I like that a lot. And I think, I think the way I look at this as well, we talk about this software that it could be useful for, for people with physical problems, with dexterity problems. But actually, I think I think just anybody that's not a confident keyboard user could make huge use of JSay or JDictate. And I think it's a great kind of it's a great future proofing for people as well if they're thinking about getting a computer and they're worried about remembering all these different kind of key commands. It's great to know that there is software out there that's going to actually allow you to use your voice and not have to remember complicated commands with your voice, but actually saying what is very practical, in how you'd expect to be able to navigate. Absolutely brilliant. Has anybody got
Yes, I got one.
questions? Yeah,
I got one.
I
have one. I have one as well.
Oh,
Can I talk?
They're all queuing up for you.
Can
now,
I
Brian.
talk?
Yes.
Go for it, RJ or JR.
No, my name's RJ.
RJ.
Don't get it mixed. Basically, you've mentioned JAWS, but not everyone uses JAWS. Will you consider NVDA screen reader or Microsoft Narrator?
In a word, no. And that isn't being difficult. We actually approached the organization relating to NVDA all the way back in, I think, 2015. And because of the way that NVDA works, it is very much open source. So anybody can contribute to the product. That's simply what that means. We, as a commercial organization, our values and their values did not sit well together. So unfortunately, no, we're not able to do anything with NVDA.
Because there's going to be, listeners out there who can't afford JAWS, and there's going to be people out there who, can't afford JAWS, because it's thousands of pounds. Well,
it is not
maybe
thousands of pounds. It is not thousands of pounds. It is around about the £600 mark. And I think you'll find in the future anyway, because in the United States, they have what is called a home annual license, where you can pay a nominal amount for JAWS and you pay for it each year, a bit like Microsoft Office. I think you'll find in time that will come to the UK. So I do appreciate your point that you're making, but I'm quite happy with the direction in which we've always gone and which we will continue to go.
I think it's fair to say as well that that JAWS throughout the coronavirus and through Sight and Sound technology has been available at a very heavily discounted price as well.
Yes, indeed. So JAWS has been available for, I think, about £100, something like that, since in that period. So that's kind of, I see that as a kind of a stepping stone, a taster as to what could come in the future. So I think you will find at a later point, there will be a huge reduction in cost.
Right. It's a great question, though. Thank you for that. And David, I believe you've got a question.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions. They're only quick ones. The first one is because you use Dragon Naturally Speaking, do you actually sell that package on its own? Because although this presentation is very good, and I've found it very good, particularly in view that I'm a volunteer for Galloway's, and I have supported people with JAWS in the past, but just looking at my own needs, I found out accidentally on the iPad that for me, I'm quicker dictating my emails rather than typing them. Are you selling Dragon Naturally Speaking all on its own for Windows 10?
We won't sell it on its own, no. So the best way of getting it, to be totally honest with you, is to visit the Nuance website.
Right.
Okay, and you can download it there. You don't even have to have a DVD of it these days.
No, I know I noticed that, but
you can
I do
download
like that idea,
Okay, we will sell it as a package if it is purchased with one of our JSay or JDictate products.
Right. Okay. And the second question I had was just really a matter of curiosity. You say you train people in the use of JAWS and all of your other software that you support. how do you go on doing that when they're on the other side of the planet? You can't go and visit them so easily, especially during a lockdown. And I've done delivered training before, and I know sometimes you need to be there at the person's PC.
Well, because of technology, I can effectively be there at the person's PC. We can actually connect to a computer, no matter where that computer is in the world, and I can hear very clearly the JAWS software at my side, exactly what it is that they're hearing. And so I'm able to conduct any training, no matter how complex it is, using that method.
How much is the training? Say somebody wanted training on, say, like Microsoft Edge or something else, because I'm a mid user, JAWS, so I know some of the keystrokes, but not all. A lot of them. And there's some programs now since we've got to Windows 10 that I'm still really struggling with, Edge being one of them.
Okay, so you're in luck in some ways, because we already have a training course on Microsoft Edge. If you go to our website, we actually have, I think, 21 different training courses in different applications, and these come in the form of MP3 files, so they're audio files.
How loud are they recorded? Because I'm deaf as well, so a lot of the recordings online I can't always hear.
They are recorded at an extremely loud volume. And what I try to do is, if there are keystrokes involved, because of people like yourself, I do try to emphasize what the keystroke is. So, for example, if you need to press Control L, I will say press Control L for Lima. Okay, so that you have some indication.
Oh, that's good.
Exactly.
I do have problems hearing individual letters and things.
Yes, well, this is what you're by no means alone. So we do have those training courses, and they range. They're usually about £40, something of that order. And in the case of Microsoft Edge, you get there about 6 or 7 hours of training. I have a lot to say about most applications, I'm afraid. So
Brian, can a lot of things, because I've got a half keyboard, so I don't have an insert key. Because a lot of times you were saying insert, I have to use the caps lock key.
That's fine.
So when you're going through, like, will all the insert keys go onto the caps lock key?
Yes, they will. Yes. I know there was another question coming up there, but I just want to conclude what this lady was saying or asking about. If you did want individual training, that can be done as well. The cost for that remotely is £90 for a block of 3 hours. Okay, so it equates to £30 an hour, in other words. So that is one-to-one training. There was another question back there.
Yes, Brian. I found you very easy to follow, because I'm like, it was Amy talking before, wasn't it? I'm deaf as well, and I found your voice very easy to follow. It was clear and concise, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
What I was worried about, I have had a stroke and tumours, that's how I lost my sight. When I get tired, my voice often alters and stammers a little bit. Yeah. Would the package recognise my voice still?
Yes, it would. There are a lot of people in this position. What often happens is that some people, for example, they might start out very good in the morning. I mean, you've got a good voice anyway. It would have, in this current condition, it would have no difficulty with you. But some people, they start out great in the morning, and then by lunchtime or early afternoon, the speech deteriorates a little bit. So we actually have the ability to have a number of what we call profiles on the machine. So what I would do in that situation is we would have perhaps a morning profile and an afternoon profile as an example.
That sounds amazing. I think you've got everything covered. And I am a bit of a Luddite, as Andrew will confirm.
There's nothing wrong with using old technology if it's working.
Andrew has the patience of a saint, and he'd make a very, very good trainer, I think, for your company. He's excellent, and he's got the patience of a saint.
That's wonderful news that you've got somebody on the ground there, and that's often important with any technology, and especially this kind of technology. If you have a family member or someone like Andrew who is around who has an awareness of how this stuff works, then that is half the battle.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for that, Julia. You're making me
No,
cry
no.
here.
Oh, I don't know how you put up with me. I really, really don't. You
Oh,
could be a good member of the Samaritans, I think.
Oh, thank you, Julie. Well, you know,
I'll echo that.
have we got any more? Should we take one more question for Brian?
Well, I've just got a quick comment rather than a question. I echo the point that it was very clear to hear, you know, as good as a radio presenter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was clear as good, you know, and that, and I think Amy did point out, you know, anybody that is deaf, you know, it's like I said it in an email to you, Andrew, earlier, you know, that how clear things have to be and the quality of stuff has to be for deaf people.
Absolutely. I've got to say as well, I talk to a lot of people about voice recognition, voice dictation, whether you're using, you know, a product that Brian is talking about today, like Say or Dictate, or you're using Siri or you're using Google on your phone. The way Brian speaks is absolutely perfect, and that's what you should look to do when you're using voice dictation. It's speaking concisely so that you know that the AI can understand what you're saying. And so the way that you put it across, Brian, is a great example, really, of how
Thank you. I do agree with you. I completely agree with everything you've said. I'd just like to point out the difference for anyone that's interested in a product or a voice recognition system like Siri on the iPhone and what Dragon is doing, because it is important to understand it. So with Siri, it was very, very good when that was introduced, and you now have that on Android phones as well. You have the Google Assistant, for example, and these are great tools because they brought voice recognition to the masses. Okay, so it made it very, very popular to be able to send texts and dictate things. The problem is that these are processed, your speech is processed in the cloud. So you will dictate something, it will go off to a server somewhere, and it will hopefully interpret it and bring it back to the device. And that is why there is a delay in the responsiveness of this voice recognition technology on those devices, and also why the accuracy sometimes malfunctions a little bit, for want of a better expression. Now with Dragon, it isn't like that. It is all processed locally on the computer. So when I finished speaking, of course, it was about half a second between the time I finished speaking to something actually happening for the text to be recognized. And that's why it's as fast as it is and as accurate as it is, because it is being processed locally on your computer. I think it's important to understand that difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It must require a high.
Can I agree to ask a question, please?
Yeah, go on, Jamal. We'll take one more
Jamal
question, and we'll take it from Jamal.
Hi, my name is Jamal Ahmad. I just wanted to ask, do you reckon this JSA might be useful for me? Because obviously, I've got some vision in my left hand. Obviously, I use NVDA, which is the screen reader. So I was just wondering if JSA might be useful for me or not.
Well, you would have to get JAWS. As I've already explained, it doesn't work with NVDA. You may consider something like Zoomtext Fusion.
I might consider that. Yeah, that's correct, yes.
I'll just explain to people what that is if they don't know. That is a product which combines the functionality of JAWS for Windows that we've been using today with Zoomtext Screen Reader Magnifier. Okay, so it's for people who perhaps want to rely on vision to look at a particular part of the screen where the speech ordinarily won't read it out, or it might with some difficulty, but who nevertheless, maybe their vision is deteriorating and they're relying more and more on the speech output. That is what Zoomtext Fusion is all about.
Right, okay, yeah, so that might be a better one for me then. Yeah, thanks for that, Brian.
Okay, thank you. And our products will work with Zoomtext Fusion.
Absolutely. Absolutely superb stuff. Well, I've got to say a big thank you to Brian from Hartgen Consultancy for joining us today. I mean, to be honest, it's been absolutely fascinating. A brilliant demonstration as well. I'm sure I'm going to get lots of questions after this at some point. But Brian, we've really, really enjoyed having you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
And it's been my absolute pleasure being here. Thank you very much for inviting me along. And maybe if you would like me to at some future point, I will come back and talk about something else.
Oh, absolutely.
That would be
Yeah,
loud.
brilliant. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.